hello and welcome back to the Opinioneers. You do realise this is episode number 5. It's 5 months since we shock the world with our thoughts and opinions. So as regular listeners will know, we loosely discuss innovation and other things related to it. So I'm Derek Cheshire, Chameleonomist, which I'm just trying that one out again, Innovationist, visiting professor, speaker, author and radio presenter. And live streamer, of course. And this handsome chap is Stuart Webb Strategist, fractional chief operating officer. Does that mean you're only part of a?
It means that the piece of work that I do is very definitely fractional.
or fractured.
Needs to complete it, yes.
But scientific value builder and all-round business genius. So we hope there are some people listening to this. There are other people who've said they would connect. So it's a topic that I think there is no, it sounds silly, no definitive definition.
Ooh.
There's lots of things that are up in the air. So opinions, comments, questions are definitely welcome. So I guess we'd better talk about what this week's topic is, haven't we?
Now, I'm just going to correct you on one thing before we start, Derek. You said it's 5 months since I started giving opinions. It has been a lot longer than 5 months since I started my opinions. It's only in the last 5 months that you've decided to put them onto the internet in this rather public way. But I can promise you it's been several years since I have had opinions and I've expressed them widely and loudly to others.
Since birth, probably.
Although my mother basically, I think, turned around and told me to just shut up, which is something you haven't yet done. But we'll see whether or not that happens.
Well, yeah. So this week's topic is innovation and the circular economy. So apart from the fact that we don't know what we have ideas, but nobody really has a definition of innovation that people could say, well, that's good. And the circular economy, that's just, yeah.
Are we going to start with a definition of the circular economy, which I'm going to start by defining?
You define it.
Okay, well, I'll define it in this particular article I read, which basically said, in an economy, the traditional linear model of taking resources, making products, consuming them, and throwing them away is replaced with a system that aims to reduce waste, encourage recycling, and prolong the lifespan of products and materials. So, if that is the circular economy, what we're trying to say is how do we make our products less throwaway and more reusable, more reduction? What does that mean for our innovation? And I'd like to suggest that there are some the very first one is innovation in product design. If you're going to reuse your phone, you have to make it last longer. You have to make those software updates backward compatible with your hardware. Don't change the hardware to make it faster and then require software which actually only has particular hardware requirements. You have to write your software so that it's highly backward compatible with hardware. That's quite a difficult subject to start with because most people will turn around and say, well, manufacturers need to do that because otherwise their profits are reduced. And that's the way in which we measure things. So it's part of our innovation to innovate and change the way in which we measure progress. We measure progress on making money. Now that's going to become the controversy that the opinion that I put out, that in order to change to this circular economy, in order to change the way in which we're sort of reducing our reliance on technology, reducing our reliance on things, we have to innovate a new way of measuring our progress. Now, is that something that I know you read a little bit about this, Derek?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Give me your thinking.
But yeah, I go back to the last sentence of, well, by the way, if anybody is just sort of completely new to this, then go and check out the Ellen MacArthur Foundation on the internet. But that last sentence there, which talks about decoupling economic activity from the consumption of finite resources, there's two things there: the decoupling and the fact that the resources are finite. So the decoupling suggests, as what I suggested before, that we're going to need some sort of social innovation to change the way we think about the value, or the way we think about waste, the way we think about maybe using the output of one process to the input of another process, however that's done. But also the attitude of people generally to consumption, because all of the problems we have regarding the climate change are all traceable back to consumption. We consume more plastics, more energy to produce it, more crude oil. We want more gadgets, so we have more electricity. It's all consumption. So we need to think very carefully about everything we do, and it's a minefield. It's huge.
So I know, and those people who are familiar with watching the news in the in the UK will know there's a newsreader called Sophie Rayworth. Her sister, Kate Rayworth, is an economist, and she talks about something called the donut economics. I think it's called donut economics anyway. Donut economics is where she is talking about how do we ensure that no one falls short of life essentials, from food and housing to healthcare, and this she calls a donut, with the middle of the donut being the sort of the shortfall that most people experience, but the outside of the donut being the overshoot, which is where we actually overuse and overinflate. So there's a lot to be said about the fact that our economy needs to take on this more circular donut-shaped thing, where we're looking to shrink the inside hole, which is the shortfall, and cover that. And that's where I believe that we can be innovative to continue sort of growing as a species, but not necessarily consuming as a species. And that, I think, is the balance that we now need to start thinking about, in terms of where do we put our innovation hat on and make that innovation effort in order to increase the number of times that we can actually find products which do that for us. If we're going to, once again, take an example.
Yeah, and at a global level, we have another issue, because it's a problem that we've had for years, and that's the countries that we consider third world or developing countries are wanting to consume more, to have what Western countries have.
Agreed.
And in a way, that's right, but they're at a stage where we could actually learn from them in terms of what the things that they really need. A lot of that, their increase in activity is due to aspiration. But people in mud huts, okay, they might want a little bit more than a mud hut, but they have less requirements to be happy. And going back to the social innovation thing as well, is it because you have extended family groups, possibly tribes? Why do we surround ourselves with tellies and smartphones and computers and all the rest of it? Why don't we just talk to people? I'm not saying that that's the solution, but it might help temper some of the demands for iPhones and.
So can I offer to you then, Derek, just a few ideas that I've mulled over when I've sort of looked at some of this stuff. One of which is, and I'm going to hark back to something that I was involved in not so long ago, and mention the Sustainability World Cup, where I was a judge recently, where we looked at how do we help people become more familiar with the whole idea of sustainability and regeneration and circular economies. And one of the things that I remember speaking to some of the people that are participating in this, and they said, well, what is it that you think that we should adopt as our sort of, our biggest lesson from this? And I said, one of the things that I think you need to do is see the bigger picture. recognize the potential roles of everybody around you, and think about the synergies, think about what it is that you can be doing in 5-10 years time, rather than thinking about the next 3 months, which is what we actually always do. We think about the next 3 months. And the other thing that helps you to do is think more in systems. Look for evaluation, look for ways in which continuous improvement, be alert to dynamic effects, because we tend to tunnel our thinking. And I think if there's anything that innovation can teach us, it is that, one, things happen that we don't expect to happen, but also we can take inspiration from a number of different places. Give you an example. One of the things that we talked about during the Sustainability World Cup, there was somebody who was trying to solve a problem. The problem that they were trying to solve is ice on power lines. And they went for a walk in the woods during the summer. So this was not even at the time when there was a problem, but they knew they had to solve the problem for the coming season. And they watched a woodpecker banging away at a piece of wood, and they watched the wood vibrating. And their immediate thought was, if only I could get the power lines to vibrate like that, it would take the ice off the power line. And hence, in Sweden, during heavy snowstorms, they fly helicopters along the power lines in order for the downdraft to cause the power lines to vibrate and shake the ice off. Mm-hmm. That's just one example of how you start to think about what is the sustainability and circular economy. And I will answer, Andrew. Andrew, I've got your comment. I will send you a link. I put it into the episode, into the notes below. Sorry.
No, that was
rambled on there, Derek. I apologise.
Yeah, that thing about the cables, that they've been using that now for a few years, I think, on the I'm not sure which one, but one of the 7 crossings that was used to be closed when there was ice on the bridge. And
it is an example of how we have to think outside the box, that innovation around circular economy means not thinking of the traditional stuff. It means not doing what we would normally do. It means starting to think different, starting to think about longer term solutions, starting to take inspirations from outside of where you'd normally do it. You know, one of the, we talk about this, as innovationists, for want of a better word, as innovationists, we try and get people to innovate by going into different spaces. And it's a great way of doing it, because you have to take yourself out of your normal thinking space and put yourself into a different thinking space. So, go for a walk, go somewhere and imagine yourself in a different situation. So all of those things are something which you need to be doing on a day-to-day basis.
Indeed. Go for a walk. As I always used to just tell people to do with creativity, is take a different route to work.
Absolutely.
I bizarrely, I've got about 3 or 4 different routes back from the gym in the car. Sounds terrible, doesn't it? Drive back from the gym in the car. But the point is, there are things that I've noticed or seen, independent shops that have opened that I wouldn't have noticed about, and all sorts of things like that. You just don't see if you do the same every day. And the other thing we need to think about is the fact that, because we are in a circular economy, your inputs and outputs can be linked to completely different, what should we say, other systems. Like, you can take your input from one company. I've heard of people, waste products from paint being processed and used, and the output has been something completely unrelated to paint. And the problem there is the value that's created, and where does it go? Because people want to create value.
Yeah.
You can't just have marketing kudos for being green. But a good example was one that came from a sadly deceased colleague in India, and one of the Indian university's business school alumni. He created a power company called Husk Power, Now, the farmers in the farmers in remote villages grew rice, and their big waste product was the husks. Excuse me. So what on earth do you do with tons and tons of these things when you've got lots of rice? The farmer would want some extra income, but if you were trying to generate power, where would you generate power from? Well, actually, you just, in this case, the easy way was to burn the husks to generate power. But then that had a knock-on effect, which was the villagers had electricity in their huts, which meant that the kids had electricity at night to do their homework by. So they in turn got better, exam grades and things like. The whole thing had a knock-on effect, and that's the sort of wider thing. Is it's like added value at every stage. As long as you can add value at every stage, then it's win-win, really.
That's an interesting idea. That once again, the problem that we have, and I guess this is innovation as a general concept, Derek. The problem that we have in innovation is we often don't see the unintended consequences of each of our decisions, do we? And that's particularly important in around the circular economy, because what you hope to do is to have an economy which is perfectly reuses and recycles everything. But unfortunately, we see that, well, one, that's not possible. Physics just actually dictates that's not possible. So we can get into the science behind that. But the fact of the matter is that we often don't recognize the fact that by doing that, we are going to have impacts upon traditional economics. And we get back to the problem that needs to drive this more than anything else is some of that thinking about how do we change society, how do we change people's perceptions of growth, and how do we fund some of this, because it's going to be very difficult to justify doing some of that when a lot of the world's GDP, a lot of the world's innovation and business drive is around making a product and then throwing it away. So we will have to start being cleverer about using AI, robotics in order to do more recovery. I mean, I worry an awful lot about the fact that we don't do an awful lot. But there's some great robots out there at the moment in the world of waste, which are capable of rescuing and recognizing materials and much better reusing and recycling those than human beings are, because we can train AI, we can train robots in order to be very picky about what they pull out of waste and safely gather more materials in order to rate. But as a result, our product design has to change because we don't use the best design in order to make those products easily recyclable. Example, if you go into your phone and you try and get the circuit board out of it, you'll find it's glued on in all sorts of strange ways that make it almost impossible to reuse it, very difficult to recycle it, because nobody's thought about how do we make this thing. Now, people like Apple are now thinking about that in much more intelligent ways, but we can do this if we really want to.
Indeed. And thing is, technology is the obvious one, but I mean, food packaging, clothing, there's a lot of there's a lot of unfortunately there's still a lot of people. I hope there's no females listening, because I'll get
You're going to get into trouble with us, Derek.
Yeah, probably.
Well, good.
But there are a lot of females that I know of that will buy sort of stuff from Primark, wear it. It'll never be washed. It'll get thrown away.
Oh, you've definitely not met my females then, who wear it forever and ever and ever. And I'm the one that's criticised for having worn something for too long until such time as it does fall apart. But that's not to do with fashion. That's just to do with the fact that I'm too lazy to go shopping.
Yeah, but there's all sorts of things. How long stuff's used for? Is it designed to be reused? Sometimes it's not. Can it be reused? Most of it can be. It's just all sorts of things that we would just, well, we have problems to solve. But the other thing is, there are so many things thrown away that could have uses for, like, I mean, one of the obvious things that we have up in this part of the world is the use of fleeces from sheep. It's not economical to shear a lot of sheep unless their fleeces are used for high quality wool. But the fleeces from all sorts now are being baled up and used to stem the flow of water up on the moors to stop lots of water and the degradation of the peat bogs and things.
Yeah.
So, I've seen wool actually being woven into strong ropes, and when they snap, you just recycle them.
Yeah. That's probably something you shouldn't be using unless you are very sure that the mountain you're climbing is not more than 2 feet off the ground, I presume.
Yeah, you wouldn't use you wouldn't use a rope. I mean, they are strong. They will take a lot of tension, but yeah, imagine if either of us fell off a mountain, then you wouldn't want a woolen rope. You would want something with a bit of give in it, and but yeah.
There's an extraordinarily good reason why I am not up a mountain, Derek. It's got something to do with the fact that I don't know. My legs are only just strong enough to hold my weight up, let alone dangling from one fingernail whilst grasping for something sort of well out of my reach.
Yeah, indeed. So there we go. So I can't remember. Did we mention social innovation? I think we.
I think we mentioned social innovation.
I think we mentioned social innovation.
We've opined on social innovation.
We have. So social innovation, product innovation, design innovation, innovation, and the circular economy are inexplicably linked.
And these are all opinions that we should come back to on a regular basis.
They are.
In fact, I think, is it not my turn to pick next time?
It's your turn to pick a topic next time.
I will probably pick one of those then, and I shall come back to you and let you know what it will be.
I think social innovation will be a good thing to.
I was expecting to get somewhere near there, but I didn't want to say it just in case.
Well, it'll be a surprise. So if you're listening and you want to come along next time, Stuart will surprise you.
On talking about social innovation.
Indeed. And talking about next time is actually, let's consult my piece of paper, the 13th of September.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. That's the second Friday of the month.
I shall now make a note of that.
You make a note of that, and for anybody else out there, please do make a note of it, and we'd love to see you then. So it's goodbye from me, and
it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him. See you next time.